You're listening to the Marriage Clinic podcast, a podcast on love, marriage, and personal development. Our purpose is to inspire and equip you with knowledge and skills to enable you to have lasting and fulfilling relationships. Now, your host, Joshua Margaret.
Hello, and welcome back to this week's episode of Marriage Clinic. The reaction to last week's episode was big. There was big energy. There was a lot of fire in the chat. Yes, some people disagreed with me. Feel free to disagree with me. I understand that this podcast is coming to you, people who believe different things, but at least we can accommodate and have conversations around it. So you are welcome to the Marriage Clinic podcast. This is a podcast on love, marriage, and personal development. And we seek to inspire and equip you with knowledge and skills to enable you to have a lasting and fulfilling relationship. We want to see you have a lasting, and not only a lasting, but a fulfilling relationship. So they should be lasting and they should be fulfilling. So you are welcome to this week's episode of the Marriage Clinic. Last week, we began with the lies we believe about sex. And man, it is catching fire. It's going viral. And we are back with this week's. Last week, I gave you 3 lies. Let's see what we can do in the next 25 minutes. And then we will bring you the 3rd episode of Lies We Believe About Sex. So lock in. Like this, wherever. If you're watching on Twitter, you're watching it on Facebook, you're watching it on YouTube. Can you kindly click on the like button? Can you put a comment in there? It's going to help us. Even if it's a thumbs up, if it's a fire emoji, if it's a heart emoji, whatever you put in there is going to help this go far. And then I would love for you to share. Kindly share it with a loved one, share it with a friend. Let them know that this is the Marriage Clinic podcast. This is the go-to place for all marital and relationship information. Solid, balanced, wholesome marriage and relationship information. You're going to get it all here. So glad to be here. Don't forget, on the first Sunday of every month, we have the in-person event, which is kind of like a Marriage Clinic masterclass that we have. But this is coming to you every week so that we can keep pouring into you and keep giving you nuggets about marriage. So the last time we were together, we started looking at the lies we believe about marriage. And we said lie number 1, if you remember, was that God doesn't like sex. We said lie number 2 was that sex is just a physical act. We said lie number 3 was sexual compatibility should be tested before marriage. And here we go. So what I need you to do is to realize that if you need all of that information, you can go back to the last episode, wherever you found it, and you'll be able to get the details of it. So we come to lie number 4. Lie number 4. Are you ready for it? Lie number 4. Lie number 4 is this. I can have sex. I can have the kind of sex I see in porn movies. I can have the kind of sex I see in porn or in movies. Maybe you don't watch porn, but maybe you watch movies and you see the couple coming in and they're tearing off their clothes and the music is playing and they're mentioning their names and the camera is giving angles and and probably that is the standard of sex that you have in your mind. And you see, one of the things that in any area of your life, let me digress a little bit and talk about the expectation gap. With everything that we do, there's an imagination of what it is and then there's the actual situation of what it is. Now, what happens is that a lot of the time, before we go into something, we have an imagination of what it is. So someone watches Grey's Anatomy and sees, what's the lady's name? Is she something Grey? I know all of them are called Grey. A number of them are called Grey. Please, if you're a fan of the series, don't go into my DMs and blast me. I haven't followed it too well. I think she's called Meredith or something. But if you have watched Grey's Anatomy, you probably would think that that is what it means to be a doctor. And then you choose to go into medicine. And then you find out, especially if you're in Africa, you find out that there's a big difference between what we see on TV and what actually happens in the hospital. That expectation gap causes you to be disappointed. It's same for any job. Your expectation of what college or university is going to be as against what it actually is the disappointment. Your expectation of what a job should be and what the job actually turns out to be is the disappointment. You can't have great sex in marriage if you came in with the expectation that what I saw in porn and what I saw in movies, I am going to get in my bedroom. Why? Let me just tell you a few reasons why. First of all, porn actors are not the happiest people in their lives. They may be smiling on set and they may be saying all the right things and doing all the right things. But I read a study that said the average life expectancy of a porn star is 37 years. Let's let that sink in. 37 years. So many porn stars commit suicide. So many porn stars live in depression. So what they portray on the screen is not the truth of what it is. Now, if you want to have the kind of sex that you find in porn movies, you must remember that it takes probably like between 7 to 13 people to shoot a 5-minute or a 10-minute porn scene. You have to have the makeup artist, you have to have lighting, you have to have the director, you have to have the cameraman, you have to have sound, location, and then on average, a porn star is paid about, I did a search. I know I'm not a fan of porn, but I did a search, and they're paid about $800 per episode. So if you want your wife or your husband to perform, get your wife someone to do makeup for her before she goes into the room, get the lights set up, get a director, get your cameraman. Okay, you may not need a camera, but put all these things in place, then you can get the kind of sex you have in porn movies. I used this example one time in a talk and people started laughing. The guys had an aha moment, a mind blow moment when I said, for you to expect your wife to perform like a porn star, make all the noises, jump, hold the swing from the chandelier or whatever they say, is like you watching, let's say Real Madrid versus PSG, and then turning around and telling your wife, turning around and looking at you and saying that you need to be able to play like Messi, or you need to be able to play like Mbappe, or whoever is the greatest footballer you think like. Immediately guys go like, no, I can't. In as much as I watch football and I enjoy football, or whether it's basketball, you should shoot like Steph Curry, or you should be able to drive and dunk like LeBron or Simmons or whoever. Or whatever sports men are normally into sports. Some women also love sports, but we do not compare what we see on TV to what we can do. Yes, we go to play a little bit of pickup basketball on the weekend, but we don't dare try what they do because they are professionals. When you believe the lie that I can have the kind of sex I see in porn movies and in porn movies and in normal movies, you are setting yourself up for disappointment. So it is a lie. The lie is, the fourth lie that we tend to believe about sex is that I can have the kind of sex I see in porn, and that is a lie. All right? Because they are paid, they are acting, it is not the real thing. They do several takes to get the same picture. Number five, the fifth lie that we believe about sex. The fifth lie that we believe about sex, and brothers lock in. Brothers lock in right now. I'm going to say something that is going to deliver you, set you free. Lock in. If there's a brother by you, tap him. If you have a brother, call him up and say, hey, join in on this podcast. You're about to say something that is going to help us, guys. And this is it. Lie number five. Bigger is not always better. We see all these videos lately, and we see people picking various fruits out and trying to describe how big they want their men to be. And you see adverts all over socials and so on talking about penis enlargements and how they can make you bigger. And you see them interview ladies. How big should your man be? And you say, oh, he should be 14 inches. He should be 50 inches. And what you must understand is that the longest area of pleasure in a woman's sexual organ, I'm trying to be PG here so I don't get cancelled. The longest portion of pleasure in a woman's sexual organ is 5 inches max. 5 inches max, and that's when she's aroused. Normally about 4 point something inches. And the average length of a man's erected penis is 5 inches. Sorry, so the portion of a woman that experiences pleasure during sex is 5 inches maximum. 3 point something, but 4 inches maximum. 4 inches, let's get the numbers right. 4 inches maximum. And the average length of a man's erect penis is 5 inches. So guys, you have 1 more inch. 1 more inch that she actually needs. Now, here's another truth you need to understand. Less than 20% of women reach orgasm through thrusting. So I see guys taking herbal treatments, going for all kinds of implants, gels to be injected in there. It's in your mind. Less than 20% of women reach orgasm through thrusting. That means it's more about what you are doing than the size of the equipment you have. And to satisfy your spouse is not a measure of your size or your duration of thrusting. So please lay off the herbs and lay off the enlargement nonsense. Understand bigger is not always better. And ladies, stop putting pressure on guys to feel like they must be as big as God knows what. And I've seen so many people who have gone into herbal treatments and all these kind of things, and they are in their 30s and they're already having high blood pressure. Some of them are having stroke. Some of them are having erectile dysfunctions because they bought into the lie that they must be big. And that is a lie. So walk in this new understanding that bigger is not always better. Lie number 6. Lie number 6. Let me ask you to put this in the chat right now. Just put the number of minutes. How long do you think sex takes? How long do you think sex takes? Yeah, we've come to lie number 6. How long do you think sex lasts? Yep, type in there. If it's 20 minutes, type in 20 minutes. Or you can just type in 20. Everything is in minutes. Well, if you think hours, then still put it in minutes. You think it's 60 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 30 minutes. How long do you think sex takes? Put it in the chat, right? Have you put it in there? Okay, I'll give you 2 more minutes to put it in the chat. Great. Now, let me tell you, the average duration of sex is 5.4 minutes. 5.4 minutes. 5.4 minutes. So to the married women out there who tell their husbands, you know what, we don't have time. You know, maybe you're getting dressed in the morning and he's feeling frisky and you say, we don't have time. It's just less than 6 minutes. And some people have ruined their entire futures with 5 minutes of pleasure. Some people have found themselves in sticky situations and it's complicated. And some people have gifts they can't take back. That includes children, because of 5 minutes of pleasure. Think of, so the next time you're tempted to sleep with somebody you shouldn't be sleeping with, ask yourself, do I want to ruin so much because of 5 minutes? Now look at it. It takes a man on average 5 to 7 minutes to reach an orgasm. And it takes a woman on average 14 minutes to reach an orgasm. So that means that when a couple are having great sex, I'm talking about great sex, that should take about 20 minutes. If they're having normal sex, but the sad part is that if on average sex is taking 5.4 minutes, most women are unsatisfied because it's taking them 14 minutes to reach the promised land. So let's understand, for people who feel they must keep going, some men believe they should be able to thrust for 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And what do you hear? You hear that song, I'm going to put you in 70 different positions in 70 minutes or something like that. Probably you know the song. But basically, we should understand that sex doesn't take as long as we are made to think. It doesn't take as long as we are made to think. So stop feeling like you must take something to last longer. Stop feeling like you must take something to last longer. Let me save you, young man. Let me save you, old man, if you're watching. But it doesn't need to last that long. Sex doesn't last that long. So lie number 6 is that sex must be long. All right. If a married couple, want to have proper good sex where both of that involves foreplay, intercourse, and afterglow and all of that, that takes about 30 minutes. I say to couples all the time that a couple should be willing to have 3 kinds of sex in marriage. Some marriage experts say that a healthy couple should be having about sex 3 times a week. So if you're married and you're not having sex about 2 to 3 times a week, you need to work on your game. Now, in marriage, we advise that there are 3 kinds of sex that you're going to have. You're going to have sex to meet a need, you're going to have good sex, and then you're going to have great sex. Sex to meet a need is what we call quickie, something fast. It normally is to help the man more than the woman. It's just something quick that is done that will take about 5 minutes. Then we have good sex that probably is going to take you about 20 minutes. Then we have great sex that is taking you well over 30 minutes, but that involves foreplay, intercourse, and afterglow. That involves lying down, talking before sex, having good conversations, all the things we do under closed doors. Now listen to this. A study found that a man who can thrust for more than 7 minutes is abnormal or on something. But you see, in premarital sex or adulterous relationships, people prepare for the act of sex. So the guys are sipping things and taking things and popping pills before the person arrives so they can have a sustained erection for that period. And for that reason, we have bought into the lie that sex is long. Sex is not as long as we think it is. Brings us to lie number 7. Lie number 7. My wife should always want sex. My wife should always want sex. It's not possible. Or my husband should always want sex. It's not possible. It's not possible. It's not possible. It's why? Because a woman's body is controlled by hormones. There are days she's going to want sex and there are days she's not going to want sex. I explain to couples all the time that men normally have a trigger for sex by what they see. They are more stimulated by sight. Women, on the other hand, are more stimulated by emotions. So a woman must feel a certain sense of warmth towards you and a certain sense of love towards you for her to want to have sex with you. And sometimes that warmth is bought by money. So you hear guys say, well, when it comes to my side chick, she always wants to have sex. Yeah, because she's working for the rent. My brother, she is working for the rent, and she's working real hard for the rent. She has to make up her fees, has to make up her rent, so she will smile. But when and I talk about sex within the context of marriage, but your wife will not always want to have sex based on the time of the month, based on how she's feeling, based on the amount of chores she has had to do. I mean, both of you came from work. She has gone, both of you came in, probably drove in from work. Let's even say you all arrived at 5:30 in the evening, which is good if you lived in a smaller city. But if you live in a bigger city, most likely you're getting in after 6. Even if you don't have kids, most of the time she will fix a meal, she has to clean around, she has to set things up, and then she has to bath, take her bath, come in, feel fresh, and all that while most of the time the guy is watching TV or having drinks with friends, and you come home and you're like, let's go. And when she says, I have a headache, I don't feel like it, my back is hurting, and I'm on my period, you're like, how many periods do you have in a month? This is like the 3rd week you had the period. But basically, a woman's desire for sex a lot of the time is a thermometer about how she feels about you. And if she's not feeling good about you, it is most likely she's not going to want to have sex. So my wife should always want sex is a lie that we have believed and a lie that we have to stop believing. If your wife will want to have sex, it is determined by how you treated her in the morning, how you treated her within the day, how much she heard from you, how much affection you have shown to her, then determines how open she is going to be to have sex with you. So my dear brother, let me deliver you. You really want to have the kind of sex you've been imagining. Remember that one of the greatest turn-on to a woman is you washing dishes, you sweeping in the house, you calling her up within the day. I mean, you all left for work by 10 a.m., give her a call and say, hey, I'm just checking up on you, sending her a quick message to remind her how much you love her, leaving a note here and there, helping her out with things that need to be done, telling her, let's eat out, or I will buy food when I'll bring takeout when I'm coming back home, instead of expecting her to do everything, and just generally being available. If you want her to always desire you, you have to prove to her that you desire her just beyond her body. Then we have a woman who wants to have sex. So we're wrapping up. We're coming to the end of this episode. Remember, we're talking about lies we believe about sex, and we started with lie number 4, which was I can have the kind of sex I see in porn movies. Then we came to lie number 5, which is bigger is better. Your size really doesn't matter as much as you think it matters. Then we talked about the duration of sex. Sex should be long. We've debunked that myth or that lie. Sex is not as long as we think it is. And then we came to lie number 7, which is my wife should always want sex. And we've laid that to rest as well. What I've been trying to communicate with you over the last couple of minutes and even in the last episode is, and as I said the last time, sex is the glue that holds a couple together. Sex should be had as frequently as possible. I've used the word sex in this episode more times than I probably have said all week. But hey, that's the way it is. So you must understand that sex is important. Sex is needed. Sex should be done right. But most importantly, we should remember that God designed it. Let's not shy away from conversations around it. If you're married, share this with your partner and have a conversation around it. Remember, this is the Marriage Podcast. We come to you each week. Marriage Clinic Podcast. We come to you each week. And I must remind you, this is a podcast on love, marriage, and personal development. Love, marriage, and personal development. I hope this episode has inspired you and equipped you with the knowledge and skills to enable you have lasting and fulfilling relationships. You need to have lasting and fulfilling relationships. For those who may not know, my name is Joshua Mogri. I'm a relationship and marriage coach, and this podcast is designed to help us. And we want this to go as far as possible. So please, if you have enjoyed this episode, if it has done something for you, if you've learned something new, if you've laughed at something, please like this episode, share this episode, and please leave a comment, say something nice. And even if you don't agree with some things that I have said, please put it in the comments. I don't agree with ABCD. We can have a conversation around it. So God bless you. Thank you for making the time, and we'll see you next week as we finish up with the lies we have believed about sex.